Welcome back here with Goldberg. Today I'll be talking about DIY and getting priced out. So this is something of a self-inflicted wound, but my secondary vehicle, the one that I drive perhaps once a week, was not blowing cold air. That's defense. It was doing more work than your typical trad wife, at least on an internal basis. But I first tried to get someone I know take a look at it. That fell through. Few weeks go by, and I said, might as well just put it in the mechanic shop before something goes wrong. Now, this place, you have to schedule a week out. By the time I'm in my appointments, my other vehicle, the daily driver, starts grinding really bad on the back tires. I mean, just imagine what you do if you had a Latina right in front of you. And that's not good. So, talk to the same individual, not going to happen. They're working. Called up this one shop that primarily does oil changes, but they can also handle brakes. Well, it'll be 3 or 4 days. You have to leave it here. I'm like, dude, I need it for work. I did come across this smaller chain. They had one location that was perhaps 5, 10 minutes from where I regularly labor. So I said, I'll go into work early. I'll have them look at it, eat the cost, and if nothing else, I've got a reliable car. Well, I'm sitting there reading my ebook, drinking some green tea, and finally goes, let me show you something, Mr. Goldberg. Now, I don't think they were trying to scam me per se. They had actual pictures of everything underneath the car. But they say you need pads, rotors, calipers. There's also these bushings that are decaying, and just the brake components. Got you a great deal. It's going to be $1,600. I just do a double take. What? I'm figuring 4 to 500. Someone's going to come, I'm a mechanic, that's a reasonable price. What I'm trying to explain to you is this particular car, a couple years back, I was going to sell it to a dealership and they offered me 45, 4,600. This is when it had a lot less miles. So I imagine now if you're lucky, you might get 4,000. Someone's tremendously desperate. If you did all that work, you're talking about 40, 45, 50% of the sale price just to make it roadworthy. Most of us can see how ridiculous that is. I mean, for me, $1,600 is not, oh, I'm draining my account, the world's coming to an end. For someone who makes perhaps 50K, it would be a lot more significant. But still, think about that. You can only make so much selling it, and the price of repairing it is such a large chunk of that list, of that figure. I mean, it's nonsensical. We are obviously not earning enough money in this country to account for how costly everything is. And America, it's not like you have a choice. You can choose to live closer in, excuse me, and pay what, $2,000 a month in rent. Or you have to go further out because it's more affordable, but then you're going to commute. There's no high-speed rail. Part of that's because of the environmental review process. Also, I'm sure there are considerations of do you want certain demographics having easy access to other parts of the nation? Irrespective of what conclusion you make, cars are a necessity. There's no easy way out. And I just told them, sorry, I'm going to have to try to work on this myself. Oh, so you were never planning to have it done here? No, I was. I didn't expect it to be this pricey. As such, I went to Harbor Freight because I was following Chris Fix, so I got the Super Lube. Super Lube for the project, nothing else, I promise you. Brake fluid, brake cleaner. I even bought this electric zapper lamp for mosquitoes because my backyard, man, you're going to get devoured if you try to do anything there. On Amazon, purchased an impact wrench with a warranty. It had good reviews, but just in case. And then Rock Auto. In the last month, I probably spent 4 to 500 bucks easily on Rock Auto because I went for chocks, jack stands, the jack, brake bleeder kit, all the different components. I'm ready to do it, you might say. But of course, you see how, in one sense, you're saving money, but it's also committing time. You know how when women will say stuff like, oh, changing diapers is unpaid work? Well, men do this on a regular basis. When you say, I'm going to fix my own car, that's fine, but now you've lost your hours off because you have to avoid losing that fiat by putting in that sweat equity. And it just expands out. You have a lawnmower, it breaks down. Now you have to become an expert at that. Or, oh, your bathroom, you better remodel it if you don't want to pay someone. I'm trying to get these guys before they retire or croak to finish some projects in my house because I know it's going to become completely prohibitive. The new folks that are running around, many of these companies backed by private equity, and the rates are just insane. Once more, I'm saying I make pretty good money. I can only imagine someone. That's why you see these houses that are just rotting. It's because people don't have an option. And you can make the claim that's a traditional method, like this country boy I'm acquainted with. He will not work anything past 40 hours. He's really strict on that. I'm not giving another minute to the man. But then his weekends are fixing cars, honey-do list around the house, helping his mom with stuff at her property, helping his brother. So that's perfectly acceptable, but it's to say you are going to sacrifice whether you're actually handing out the cash to someone else or you are losing more and more of your free time, your life, your liberty, just to avoid expending that. Of course, someone will go, why don't you just buy a new car? Have you taken a glance at the prices lately? The average payment per month is apparently $750. And it doesn't matter if you have a good credit score. Like when I tried to partially finance the other vehicle I have back when I purchased it, even having over 800 credit score, never having missed a payment in my life, they gave me a 14% rate. So I was like, all right, just paying it all off right now. 750 a month was meant to be previously if you had like a 400 credit score, you're purchasing a luxury vehicle you can't afford, or you're a Marine fresh out of boot camp buying a Mustang at the local dealership. I mean, this is simply untenable for the consumer market, and yet it's the norm. Just like debt financing in general, you'll have, I want to say, Amazon for a pair of jeans, a couple quick payments to get this. Oh, you want your Olive Garden order? You can just put down $7 4 times. I mean, this is ridiculous, but maybe it indicates that that's what society needs because of how much people are struggling financially. And you can go opt for something that's older. I found an early 2000s Camry, not too heavy on the miles at this dealership. They wanted 6 grand for the vehicle and then another $1,000 worth of paperwork fees, which is a very popular grift, by the way. So I sent them an email and I went, since you purchased this vehicle, because you're putting it up as is, no guarantee, have you replaced any primary components? Brakes, calipers, rotors, struts, shocks, battery? And they just give you this form response. Rest assured, it has been subjected to a multi-point inspection. That doesn't mean anything. You can pass a safety inspection and have an issue a week later. I did come across a different option. Now it's somewhat far away, but not totally unreasonable. And it's an early 2000s Saturn S series, 4 cylinder. I wanted to ask, has anyone had these cars? I've heard that they eat a lot of oil, but they don't seem too terrible in terms of reliability. I was just figuring maybe get something as a backup. Not that this situation with my vehicles should be replicated a lot. It's just that the way things are heading, I don't see the car market vastly improving unless a lot of people are kicked out of the country because there's too many folks holding on to these things, too many people trying to buy, and too many who they're selling stuff that's like 200,000 miles and demanding 7,000 for it, probably because they need the money. But again, there's no sense in doing that because any car you buy, you're going to have to fix inevitably. At this point, we can expand the subject a bit into how you might be priced out socially or romantically based upon various conditions. Recently, a big lefty liberal channel went after Raymond Thoughts in Mind. I know that there's mixed feelings on the guy, his political views like simping for Ramaswamy. Personally, I see the woman factor as being slightly self-inflicted to this extent. If you're willing to take a flight from Columbus down to Costa Rica, it's not that expensive. You could make the whole thing or most of it a business deduction, by the way, because you can say, I'm going to do some travel logs, some restaurant reviews. If you utilize an international dating app before going, you can just write that off and make a review on your channel of said app. Get a solid GFE type experience with a mestiza, take her out, dance a little bit, happy ending by the finish of the night. What's wrong with that? It isn't a long term solution, but at least allows you to get your rocks off and enjoy yourself a bit more. With that being noted, there's nothing insightful about these leftists. They do the same circa 2013 societal blackmail, get the mob together. I am outraged by this person. Let's shake our fingers at them, deplatform, get them fired. It's like that kid who was mentioning Curtis Yarvin that I covered. It's the same. Can you believe he said this? And obviously, when you're a guy who's authentic about your situation with women, you get angry and you have a certain phenotype, it's easy pickings for these liberals. That doesn't make them correct. And if you looked in the comments, there were these guys going, I may be many things, but I'm not an inkwell. I'm ugly, but it's about putting yourself out there and being yourself. I mean, you can tell that the vast majority of these progressive men, if you want to call them that, are much closer to Raymond's situation than they would like to concede. But it's easy for a liberal anon to just make such claims because, again, they always have to feel superior in some way. For someone who's left of center as a man, they need three things: a reliable fiat paycheck, a 401k that's growing on a semi-consistent basis, and then a woman of some sort. Could be trans, could be BBW, could be an abusive relationship, could be polyamorous, but at least they have snatch, and these guys don't because they're mean and they're evil and they're part of some corrupt organization that hates women. Nonetheless, cracks are beginning to show. This is just a quick search off of DuckDuckGo.
How do I avoid going down the inkwell path?
Avoid inkwell content at all costs. It is the worst thing ever. The most effective way to fight against inkwell ideology.
How do I get out of the inkwell mindset? How to stop being a 37-year-old inkwell and getting your life together.
I started loving myself. That's another goose chase they love sending guys on.
How do I stop being an inkwell?
These inkwells de-radicalize themselves. What does that even mean? I think the inkwell mindset still has its hooks in my mind. What is this, true crime? I guess it's going to get that way. This post in particular was quite telling.
Avoiding the inkwell mindset for someone who keeps having it reinforced by life.
Oh, so life, the world, your experiences are telling you this is probably the case, but you don't want to be a social outcast. You don't want to be a pariah, so you're begging for help. And the answers are not terribly useful. I couldn't find it, but there was a comment in the thumbnail when you search, and they go, my advice is, don't label yourself as an inkwell. Oh, wait, it's just a label you just choose so you can have a positive mindset and it goes away? Increasingly, people are focused on dating success, very boring obsession. You play bass, that's actually interesting. Focus on that. Yeah, your prime directive doesn't matter. Just focus on hobbies. Okay. Denying reality is definitely the path to a happy and fulfilling life. Here we go. The Overton window is shifted. No more are we talking about PUAs claiming it's about confidence and ugly guys with charisma get all the women. Short, fat, bald guys are rolling in ass. Tradcons, you gotta focus on the Lord. The liberals, just be sweet and kind and sensitive. No, now they're just telling you, don't pay attention to what's going on because there is really no solution. Again, we're getting honesty gradually here. A lot of people advising to avoid dating apps. Here we go. If you like LARPing, go LARP.
You should be going to trivia night, intramural sports, board game nights, D&D.
I mean, this might work for some people, but realistically, if you have to go to these niche hobby spaces, it's probably an indication that life is not working for you. Those who are calibrated, those who have friends, who have social circles, they're going to find a partner or they're going to find a hookup. They're not going to need to resort to this stuff, at least not as a necessity. Just know that inkwell means involuntary celibate. These guys have so much stuff backed up in their brain they cannot think clearly. Nobody owes anybody anything. Wow, what a insightful little comment there. No one's ever thought of that before. 90% of the reason they're not getting laid is because they're crappy people and women are highly perceptive. Really? because women get pumped and dumped by these guys. They claim they were actors, they were narcissists. They get knocked up and then man leaves, but they're very perceptive. They have great emotional intelligence. And then he starts cucking right after. I know what you're thinking. They date jerks all the time. Yes, but those jerks are not putting on an act. They would rather date a real douchebag than a fake nice guy. Oh, so what you're meaning with that is that if one of these inkwells were to act arrogant, condescending, like a douche around women, they would be getting laid. Because the first thing that these leftists will claim whenever there's a guy who's an inkwell, you've got a bad attitude. They look at a Raymond, oh, you're so negative, you're so hateful, you're so entitled. But now, apparently, as long as you're an honest douchebag, it doesn't matter. Could it be that maybe it's the honest douchebags who look a certain way or have a certain height that are excused from all those requirements, these disqualifiers, if you will? Just a suggestion. But there's more to this story. So this headline, 300K black women have left the labor force in 3 months. It's not a coincidence. And they're blaming AI plus Doge cuts. Of course, there could be some retiring that are being mixed into that figure. It is true and not controversial to say, much of the black middle class was built off of the public sector. If you were to eliminate that from the picture, there would be much less black wealth in circulation, property ownership, yada yada. A couple months ago, I matched with this pretty sista on Hinge, and before you can start talking with her, there's a prompt. I like being spoiled, so if you're not cool with that, swipe left. Well, she's late 20s, so I assume not in mint condition. She claims to be a scientist, and they don't make much money in most cases, living in a high cost area. So either she has roommates, or she's living with mommy and daddy, or she's paying expensive rent and doesn't have a lot of discretionary income. Nonetheless, she expects to be served. This is akin to the fat booty Latina, where I say, yeah, we can go to a little coffee shop, we can go to Panera, and she'd get pissed off because she was used to going to wine bars or steakhouses. Like, no, there's guys you'll sleep with who will take you out to Wendy's, if that. I'm not going to be a simp. And she would have on her girls' night, they're going to the wine bar, and I'm like, here, if you get an entree and a drink, you're already up to basically $50 a person. It's insane. This is another aspect of what I'm talking about where it's just too expensive to do things. I mean, I went to a nice Mediterranean or really Middle Eastern place, and ordering for the appetizer menu plus a sweet tea, which wasn't too sweet, thankfully, it was already almost $20, and then they have a tip, which they were pretty bad at serving. I need to stop giving tips to people who aren't actually even attempting to do their job properly. Although they say with Middle Eastern culture, the waiter has to leave you alone in peace. I don't know if that's true. Emerging from these economic developments, of course, is a question of how viable will certain activities remain as the job market experiences these shocks. So we know that a lot of restaurants are shutting down, amusement parks are either cutting back or closing up shop. Popular tourist areas see their revenue dropping, and you might say it's because of immigration policy, but of course, a lot of Americans are the ones that spend at these places, such as Vegas, that was in the news, I believe Florida as well to a degree. Once women don't have the same money, and of course the copers will come in, oh, the states and localities will bail them out. Well, a lot of the states and localities, they can't print money. They're reliant on federal dollars. So you saw that where DACA in California, they kicked 2,000 plus people off of healthcare, illegal immigrants, because now you have the Medicaid reforms coming through. And we're going to see more rescission cuts. We might even see a partial repeal of Obamacare. A lot of stuff coming down the pipeline. If these women don't have their government jobs, and it's not just black women, there's plenty of cream cheese chicks, Latina chicks that are there. If they start going after government contractors, nonprofits, that would have the impact on people who like run food trucks catering to those employees, other industries that might support them in varied ways. So the women will have less money, but perhaps more importantly, when these liberal males, the one that like to mock Raymond and claim that, oh yeah, see, I'm not one of those dudes, once they lose their employments and they can no longer take their girl out to a fancy dinner or take them on vacations, and it's basically, would you go with me and eat ramen because that's basically what their outcome is going to be, living in a car or trying to scrimp together enough money to keep a roof over the head. How many of these females are going to be loyal to a good Bernie Booty Boy type when they realize that the gravy train is drying up? I don't think that enough people are serious about this whole dynamic. And once that rolls out, how are they going to respond? These guys who pride themselves on getting the injection, on having a stable job, on having a woman of some sort around. I've always said this. There are the men who know they're coping. There's the men who are coping but don't realize it or in denial. And there's the ones who have no clue. Once they come to that conclusion, is it going to be self-deletion on steroids? Because for a lot of these fellows, they cannot even begin to imagine a situation where they basically have zero social value. Their opinions are irrelevant. You can go and say how much you hate Trump, how much you want Mamdani, and it doesn't matter if you've been made redundant. And by the way, this corporate regime, it's full blast. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. Anything you'd get, maybe a Billy Boy Clinton presidency. That's what you can hope for. It's going to be really interesting going forward because women are not big fans of men who have nothing to offer. Now, maybe if he's a pretty boy, if he's like a drug addict type, perhaps maybe you can fall back on your oofy doofy delusions. But the reality is, as soon as the money is gone, the snatch is closed up. Let's discuss.